everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out. And definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. When I was in college, I had to take this class. It was a required class, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was essentially about understanding your rights. What can you be forced to do? What rights do you have if, say, a police officer pulls you over? That type of thing. Now, when I think about that today, that was a really useful and beneficial class. And a class like that, or just that knowledge, would benefit a lot of people. And what I want to do in today's video is I kind of want to take a page in that college textbook and discuss our rights. What are our rights today, particularly pertaining to being involved with the narcissist? Narcissists can and will use the police against you. This happens so many times. I was shocked when this happened to me. I found out later that this is pretty common. This is what they do. They will do anything that they can. And if they can get you into legal trouble, they'll do it. So don't make the mistake thinking, well, that won't happen to me. I used to think it wouldn't happen to me until it did. Same happened to Joe. Same happened to countless other people. So this is a very real thing. But in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about what your rights are, things that you need to know, things you need to consider in case this happens to you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a few things that happened to me related to my ex and how my kids and I were failed by our local police department, what should have happened versus what did happen. Now, with this said, there's a few things I want to say is one, I'm not anti-police. I'm not against the police. I respect police, but police are like anybody else. There's good police officers and bad police officers. I don't believe anybody at all was trying to hurt my kids or I, that anything was done intentionally. I think the mistakes that the police made, they thought were in everybody's best interest. They were not, and I didn't know that I had rights at all. I thought this was just all up to the police, and that was how it was. I was afraid to a degree to get my ex into too much trouble. That also was a mistake. Once the police are involved, and somebody is accusing you of something that isn't true, or they're committing a crime that they're not getting punished for, that will affect you, you need to say something. You can't be afraid of the narcissist. This takes the game up another entire level. So let's talk a little bit about this. I don't dislike the police, like I said, but these are things that I think we all need to know. Also, another thing I want to mention is that I'm not an attorney. So this is not legal advice. I'm telling you things that happened to me, things I learned about later, things I wish I knew at the time, things for you to consider. Do your own research for this. If this is you, if you are in an entanglement with a narcissist, realize this could happen to you. If you know your rights ahead of time, you are going to benefit yourself and your children, if you have them, tremendously. So the first incident that I'm going to discuss is when my ex was found parked right up the street from my house, passed out drunk with a loaded firearm in the passenger seat next to him. Now, this happened during a particularly bad time in the entanglement. This is during the last few months, and things were going downhill fast. We basically weren't speaking. My ex was giving me nonstop silent treatments. It was just absolute horrible. And when he didn't come home, it was just a relief because he would come home and just park his butt in the basement and drink and ignore everybody. It was so bad. So he didn't come home, and I was happier that he didn't come home. However, I was surprised he didn't come home this particular night. So I had found out, so this was a Friday night. On Saturday, so the next day, he was about to be exposed for a lie that he told me. I knew about this lie. He didn't know I knew, but I knew about it. So I was waiting all week for him to say something to me because he could have saved himself a lot of grief by talking to me. But instead, he was not going to give up that silent treatment. There was just no way. So he didn't come home. So later I went to bed and I was awakened in the middle of the night by the police banging on the door. So it turns out, so they're at the door, they're holding my ex's firearm, telling me that he was found passed out in his vehicle with a loaded firearm next to him in the seat. I was so confused, you guys. Like when the police officer first said that, I actually thought because he said the word firearm, I thought my ex had started a fire. So I was like, he started a fire? I didn't know what was going on. No, he didn't start a fire. He had a firearm. And at that exact moment that I was talking to the police, they were loading him into an ambulance to be taken down to the mental hospital. Now, it turns out that my ex was passed out. He had the firearm. A neighbor or somebody called the police. And when the police got there, my ex refused to say a word. He wouldn't speak. They had a hard time waking him up out of his stupor. He wouldn't speak. In fact, he wouldn't speak at the hospital either. So he didn't say a word, but apparently the police decided that he was contemplating taking his life. So they put him in an ambulance, sent him down to the mental hospital, and they could just wipe their hands of it. What they completely disregarded was that my ex was drunk driving. Now, actually, Joe brought this up to me a while afterwards. We were talking about it one day, and he's like, why wasn't he arrested for drunk driving? I'm like, well, he was parked. That's drunk driving. With the keys in the ignition? Yes, that's drunk driving. This is what drunk driving is. Now, I always thought it was when you are driving in your vehicle intoxicated. No, drunk driving is more specific than that. It's when you're sitting in the driver's seat of a vehicle, you have possession of the keys. You don't necessarily even have to have them in the ignition, but you need possession of the keys because then you are in physical control of the vehicle. My ex was passed out, dead drunk, with the keys in the ignition and the loaded firearm next to him. That's something else that's illegal. You're not allowed to have a firearm when you are intoxicated. 2 laws right there he broke. If my ex had been arrested that night, that would have benefited my kids and I tremendously, because then I would have had police reports that don't show that he went to the mental hospital. Well, maybe that too, but that show that he was arrested for drunk driving. He had possession of a firearm when he was intoxicated. Why did he have that firearm? They're saying, well, it was because he was contemplating taking his life, but he never said anything. And later, you guys, the police officer, this is like an offshoot, just a little tidbit here. He asked me if the two of us, so the police officer and myself, could go search my ex's car. Now, I said yes, I gave him permission to do that. And I guess it ended up benefiting me, but you are not required to have a police officer search your car without a warrant. That's just a little extra. You probably already know that. And I knew that at the time, I think, but I didn't have a problem with him searching the vehicle. And it actually benefited me because what we found in the vehicle changed a lot of the way that I felt. We found several vodka bottles in the back of the car. And also in the back of the car, on the back seat on the floor, was a little bag. And in this bag, he had, I can't remember now, 3 or 4 more clips. So that was 30 to 40 additional bullets. He also had the firearm in the front seat with 10 bullets in that. Each clip holds 10 bullets. So he had that. So he had 40 to 50 bullets that night. I don't know what person that's going to contemplate taking their life needs that. He took the time to take those extra clips. Why would you need that? The whole thing made no sense to me. And I'm thinking to myself, what happens if I went up to that car? What happens if the kids went up to the car? I believe that there is a very real possibility that, given the circumstances that my ex he believed he was going to have something blow up in his face the next day. He was causing constant issues. There was no relationship. He had no relationship with his kids. His life's about to fall apart. I believe that he was very possibly sitting in that car, trying to talk himself into going in the house and not harming himself, but harming the kids and I. I don't know that. I can't know that, but that is my strong suspicion. But instead of having the cops act on this, because the cops saw this in the vehicle, acting on that, or the drunk driving, or the firearm, it was all just, you know what, let's just get him the help he needs and everything is going to be happily ever after. That wasn't the reality. But what I wish I had done is insist that he get arrested, or at least mention to the police, you're not going to arrest him, he's breaking the law. Then let that be in the police report instead of just poor guy. So that's the first thing, because that night, I didn't know about drunk driving. I wish that I had known. But also, I was really afraid when I saw all those bullets in that car. That freaked me out. So that's the first one. The second incident I'm going to talk about involves Child Protective Services. If you have children with a narcissist, be aware of this one as well. My ex, the last day we were together, actually, we got into a fight. He accused me of beating him up. What really happened is he beat himself up. He banged his head on the wall. I called the police. They come over, and my ex tries to say that I did this, that I actually lifted him, threw him into a wall. He was begging me to stop. Like, he went in this whole narrative. It was just insane. It was so ridiculous. And sometimes when I think about that, how insane really is a narcissist? The things that they say, that they expect other people will believe, that they're just such good actors that they can convince anybody of anything. So somebody who's 3 times my size is telling them that I threw him into a wall. Nobody believed him. This is important as we go on. He was not believed. It says it in the police report. He wasn't believed. The police officer said to him, "Are you sure that you want to tell me this? Because I don't think that she literally has the physical ability to lift you and throw you." No, it happened. It happened. This is exactly what happened. I want her arrested. I mean, this is what he's saying. The police ended up not arresting me. This is another thing to recognize. The reason they didn't arrest me was because it was absurd. I was so much smaller. If I was bigger, or if I had accused my ex of beating me up, even if he hadn't, they would have arrested him. They do arrest people. I was very lucky not to be arrested. I was accused of domestic violence. They told me that they weren't going to take me down, because this is the thing with the police. They take action and ask questions later. If somebody calls the police, somebody's probably going to be arrested. One of the 2 people. It's usually not the person who calls the police, but it could be. They told me that they just couldn't leave my kids alone with my ex. They just didn't trust it, so they were going to have him leave the house. This triggered a Child Protective Services investigation because there was an allegation of abuse in the house. Not against the kids, but an allegation that I abused my ex. Now, the whole thing was absurd. Nobody believed it. But they still did a full investigation. I was going to say I can't even tell you. I can tell you. You can imagine how upset I was, how afraid I was. When you're dealing with CPS, they could take your kids away. I had no idea I didn't have to cooperate. I get this phone call from them, and they're demanding to see my kids. And I can't remember now if it was 24 or 48 hours. They wanted to come to my home, interview my children, and go through my house, like do an investigation. I didn't think I had any choice. I just, okay, yes, come over. Yes, you can interview my kids. Yes, 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 yes. I had no idea that I had any rights. I was absolutely terrified. What I did went against everything that I should have done, everything legally that was at my availability. You're not required to cooperate with CPS, essentially, is what I'm saying. You're not required. You could tell them to go F off and hang the phone up. That's what you can do. And I'm not saying it would just go away if you did that. But what I am saying is you are not required to cooperate. If they have an allegation, let them prove it. You do not have to do anything. These people came into my house. It was one woman, so I guess not these people. This woman came into my house. She went through every room of the house. She interviewed my kids without me there. She opened up my refrigerator, opened up drawers, like everything. I let her. I didn't know. I didn't have to do that. Today, what I wish I had done was called an attorney. When you get CPS, that's a problem because they have the ability to take your kids away. I would not mess around with that. I would at the very least call an attorney and find out you could probably get a free consultation, like what they suggest. Know ahead of time what the rules are, what the laws are. Don't make the mistake that I did where you're so afraid you just do whatever they say. The woman that I dealt with, she was very nice. Like, it still took 2 months though, but she was nice and all that. But this really could have gone a different way. And I put my kids at risk by just letting them come on in, letting them do whatever they wanted. I didn't break any laws, but my ex did, and he didn't get in trouble at all. And that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. Lying to the police, filing a false police report. My ex filed a false police report, knowingly, intentionally. The police even said to him, Are you sure you want to go through with this? You know, it's against the law to file a false police report. Now, later he got afraid of that because he thought maybe he would actually get in legal trouble. When I mentioned it to the police, well, are you going to arrest him for filing a false police report? They said to me, no, we don't generally arrest people in domestic situations who file false police reports because we don't want somebody who really has a problem to be afraid to come forward. So because that doesn't even make any sense, because if somebody files a false police report, they should get in trouble. If you don't file a false police report, how are you going to get in trouble? But this is what they said. We're afraid people won't report domestic violence, that they'll be afraid that they could get arrested. But it's okay that my family is hurt by this. So here we have my ex. He should have been arrested for filing a false police report for having a loaded gun while intoxicated, for driving drunk, but not one thing. The last thing I'm going to talk about is my ex stole my phone right in front of the police, and they did absolutely nothing. So one of the times the police were at the house, I couldn't find my phone. I think I was trying to find a phone number for the cops, and I couldn't find my phone. So I said to the police, well, he might have it. So they said to him, do you have Sharon's phone? He takes it out of his pocket and hands it to me right in front of them. Did you give him permission to have your phone? No, I didn't. It was immediately ignored. It was nothing. It was noted in the police report. They were just noted in the police report. These are just some of the incidents that happened to me where I did not know my rights. I wish that I had known my rights. I wish that I had known he should have been arrested all these times, at least to bring it up, because then if you need this information later, at least it's in the report, that you recognize that this was an illegal issue, that you wanted something done about it and nobody did anything. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you are dealing with somebody that is dangerous. And so many people have these issues and you don't know, and you're so afraid, and you got kids involved, you don't know what to do. You can start by understanding your rights now before anything happens. What I really try to do on the channel is educate you on things that I wish I had known. This is really what I would want to listen to, because I didn't know that these things happened. Same thing going through the divorce. Joe and I are going to be having a whole series of videos out on what to expect, because you don't know. When you haven't gone through this, you're so confused. Like, what's happening? What do I need to do? You just believe the authority figure. That isn't always in your best interest. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope that it helps somebody, and let me know, have you had an issue have you had legal issues related to the narcissist? It seems like an awful lot of us do. I might do a part 2 on this video, because I was telling Joe about it and there were some things he wanted to say as well. So if you have any questions, ask them, comment, let me know if this has happened to you, and I will see you on Friday. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and I let my chickens out now. It's early in the morning in the garage, so I'm going to see you guys on Friday. Bye.